Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody to the bi-weekly community dev update community call. This is Dan, your community manager, and it is the 2nd of February. So let's go ahead and diving right into it. So really awesome stuff going on with the grants program. So we wanted to just give you a quick update here. We had 88 applicants requesting over $14 million in USD and Regen tokens. 42 of those were selected, so quite a few actually. It's pretty amazing. And we rewarded over $1.5 million in cash and Regen. So lots of great things going to be happening this year. I'm super excited. Yesterday, I believe it was, we had a Kepler learning session. The days all run together for me, but I think it was yesterday, which kind of helped some of the folks that weren't really as familiar with Kepler, that are part of the awardees, and just kind of help them out. That was an hour long, and we're going to touch base again in about 3 weeks to kind of go along with governance, since they do have quite a bit of stake. I want to stress the importance of governance to them, since I'm so passionate about it. We also have grants managers that are assigned to each of the awardee. So each manager has, some have more than others. I've actually got a couple too when it comes to some of the community ones. So just wanted to give a quick update on that. Go on Twitter, please retweet and like the posts that Dave has put up for us. Cool. Well, I guess I will actually give it over to Sam here for this slide. Sam, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so just here to present a little bit about the registry program and what things are moving. And I thought the best way to maybe share is just kind of sharing our objectives and key results for this quarter. And so our objective for this quarter is to create pathways for project developers, methodology designers, and other communities to engage in governing the registry program and its diverse set of Regen native projects, processes, and ecological assets to nurture understanding and excitement around the value of our decentralized registry program. And so, this objective is really rooted in trying to start engaging with the community and educating them on what we're thinking with the decentralized registry program, what it means, how people can participate and collaborate with one another. And so a lot of our work this quarter is focused on migrating all of our what was internal documentation, processes, frameworks for the program to public-facing workspaces, such that the community at large can start to contribute to the program itself, different frameworks within it, things like peer review, methodology development, community co-benefits, things like that. And another thing that we're trying to do is create a public-facing roadmap, and you can actually go to the next slide, Dan, that showcases all the projects and methods that are in our ecosystem. And so working with individual partners to create, these individual Notion cards that provide information about who the organization is, what they're developing, where the project currently stands, and what their current needs are, because we're realizing that there's a lot of people in the community that want to collaborate with one another or want to engage with certain projects. And so creating this external facing roadmap can help facilitate that collaboration. And this is just kind of step one towards, a larger initiative to adopt platforms like Hilo that are a little bit cleaner ways for people to start to have conversations, schedule meetings, and work in public. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, and so, when I talked a second ago about migrating the program and its documents to public, we're leveraging platforms like Gitbook, which are connected to GitHub for version control on, more markdown style documents, documentation, things like that. And so we're migrating all our work there, and then hopefully by the end of the quarter, we'll have ways by which the community at large can help upgrade, chapters, processes, things like that. So, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm actually gonna have yeah, thank you so much for that, Sam. That's really exciting stuff. So yeah, I guess next I'll go ahead and have Giselle give the science update for us.
Sure. Okay, so today I wanted to focus a little bit and sharing that we are working on increasing the predictability of the outcomes potential at the farm scale and also at the regional or global scale. And where does this come from? Next slide. So for you to understand what's the background here.
Did I go too far?
No, that's fine. So
Okay.
what's missing that nobody is looking at, like there are many attempts to create scenarios of carbon sequestration potential and link the practices to emission reductions and sequestration, but none of the model carbon to date or the reduced emission scenarios from IPCC or the FAO or USDA, any global maps that you can look at that might show you potential carbon sequestration are not considering regenerative management. So oftentimes, for instance, everything is grouped into grazing management, and you have a very, very low sequestration rate, which is not what happens when you do holistic management or A&P grazing, which has shown to have like sequestration rates 10 times higher than traditional management. So that's something that is needed. We need to create global maps, allowing people to estimate what are the outcomes when you implement these practices. And that's a need that we more and more get feedback that it's needed. And then most of the outcome, is there anyone saying something? Okay, so most outcome data for regenerative management is just one global average. If you get any rate of sequestration, it's usually just an average. Then nobody knows which regenerative practices you should implement, for instance, at each piece of land. So that's also some information that we need to create. And last, and this is the one I will be focusing now, is the land stewards and project developers need to know their potential outcomes in order to make informed decisions about transitioning into regenerative management or accessing to credits or financial incentives for their land. Next. So we started by trying to model the carbon sequestration potential for grazing systems. And so we did so by creating a very huge database from all the reported literature, scientific literature that we could find around improved grazing. This database connects information about the geolocation, where the research was done, the time lapse, and many other things. And then we used GIS in order to populate a lot of information about the soils, the topography, the content of the chemistry of the soils, the climate, the ecoregions, the management was also something that we gathered from the reports, etc. So by doing so, we created a model. And this is just a demo, and there are many ways we can do this, but it was just in order to have something to play with. We found a good correlation between three main things: the topography, the soil groups, and the Köppen climate type. And with that, we created next a global map that has its gaps. You will see in green to blue all the areas where we could find the combination of climate, topography, and soils that was also reported in all this literature, showing some sequestration rates that we could link to. And in gray, in light gray, you will see those areas where there was not enough information to make any estimation. And in dark gray, those areas where just there's cropland or it was masked out because of climate constraints or land use constraints to present. So yeah, this is the first attempt, but we have interest from universities and some research groups in order to continue, and we will make this as part of a larger endeavor where we will try to estimate and model the outcomes, not only carbon, but also other outcomes related to regenerative management and model as well the suitability of land management practices that are regenerative. So yeah, oh, and this is just in order to show some functionality. So this embed in a map where you can draw a polygon of your land. What you would get is a set of pixels with the sequestration rates, and you might get the average sequestration potential for your land or the range. We can also start by creating something less granular, like qualitative, low, medium, high potential. And I think that would be useful. So any feedback, ideas, if there's anyone interested in joining working groups around this and conversations, please let me know.
Great,
And maybe
you.
really quick, Dan, just to give the
Sure.
last science update.
Sure.
Next week, we're going to be, as a follow-up to the environmental stewardship retreat that we hosted 2 weeks ago, we're going to be holding a follow-up session on Tuesday at, I believe, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So the details can be found in Dan's channel if anyone's interested in participating.
Awesome, thank you. I don't know if it's me or if it was Sam being breaking up there, but anyways, if you can still hear me, thank you guys so much for those updates. That map is super cool. I'm really excited about that, and the same thing with the retreat. Like, I learned so much, and I'll be definitely joining the follow-up. So all right, on to the Commonwealth Forum. As you guys probably know and should know, it has launched. So just a reminder, we've migrated to the Commonwealth Forum. At the link there, you can just go to commonwealth.im/regen and find it, or you can just go to their main website and find it in the list of projects too. So I've kept the discourse forum still active for a little while for folks who just haven't really got the message yet. And I've placed a banner at the top of the discourse forum, which provides a link to the new Commonwealth. So I didn't want to cut everybody off and then get 1,000 messages like, hey, where's my posts and all that. So, but I will eventually completely migrate over. So yeah, please start using the Commonwealth. All your posts should be on there. All right, so Redwood. So in order for, and this was kind of our mistake in the beginning, at least my mistake, is when we created Redwood, we do want to keep it as the stable version. However, with the allow list, it really doesn't make much sense to have to do proposals to do allow lists just for people to play around with it. So we've actually disabled the allow list. I think that'll happen in about 5 hours, and it's just a parameter change. Myself and the Vitwit team have already voted, so it's going to pass. So that'll happen in about 5 hours or so. If you guys want to play around with that, you can on Redwood without having to do the allow list stuff. So Hambach is currently not operational. That's another reason we wanted to do this on Redwood, so our team could use Redwood. But we'll be upgrading Hambach to 3.0 very soon. We're running a little short on time. If you want to just give us a quick couple of sentences update on 3.0, Ryan, that would be awesome. If Ryan is here. Oh yes, and I think you might be muted, or I can't hear you. Unless you're playing a trick on me again.
I'm not playing a trick on you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, no, the Hambach upgrade. So we're just about ready to cut a v3.0 beta release. This beta release has some updates to the experimental app configuration, which includes an updated data module as well as the COSM-WASM support. So grant recipients that are looking to use COSM-WASM on Regen Ledger will be able to use the Hambach test network as a testing ground and to deploy contracts to the Hambach network. And this also includes, as noted here, some of the initial marketplace functionalities included. The direct buy orders are supported, and the addition of the decentralized exchange and the group module and everything else is not included in this beta, but there is some basic marketplace functionality. There's project support. There's updated data module and COSM/WASM smart contracting support that's included in this beta. So if you're interested in playing around with any of those things, we'll have Hambach updated hopefully by the end of this week.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for keeping that short. That's great. Excited to start playing around with that. Especially the COSM/WASM stuff. So that's really cool. All right, all right, cool. Oh, Regenerati News Hour. So this is something that we started, I believe, a couple of weeks ago and has been really fun. Great turnout. So that happens every week on Thursday at 1600 UTC. Which is like 8 a.m. my time, really early in the morning for me, on Twitter Spaces. Last week we had some of the grant awardees chat about their projects and kind of their experience with the process. And we're going to do the same thing this week with Rebecca. So please join in. It's really cool to see what some of these folks are doing. So moving on, here is our region market and liquidity report as always. We're still moving along, and you can find this slide. I won't go over it, but you can find it in the presentation later on. As always, Redwood and Hambach, just kind of want to mention those. There's the information for you. And yeah, that's it. So we didn't do too bad. We still have about 11 minutes for questions and comments. If you guys want to chime in, anything you want to talk about, any questions that you have, this is your time to do it. Don't be shy. So I don't know, maybe Gregory wants to speak to some of this stuff. Maybe there's something that I missed. I'm sure I've missed all sorts of stuff. There's always so much moving.
Well, I think, I don't know. I mean, yeah, this has been great. I was just thinking that perhaps it's useful to just chat about, I mean, I think there's a bunch of stuff moving, but I'm curious to hear if people are interested in specific interactions with the testnet that's coming up, if there's specific plans around the data module, if people have specific plans around COSM/WASM. I know there's sort of like a lot, there's just a lot moving, and I'm just curious if people have any feedback about what they're planning on building.
I guess I have a quick question about the testnet. I haven't stood up a testnet myself, but it's been a while ago since I did that. But I've been considering. There's a few groups that I know that are interested. What's the fastest way, and what are, from maybe this is for the developers on the call. Like, do you have any kind of like quick start way just to stand up a testnet, or do you recommend just like? I guess my question is, do you recommend others just interacting with the testnet via the CLI, or do you recommend others to stand up their own sort of testnets for playing with and that sort of thing? Which is a much more complex task. And what are the most rapid way to do such a thing? I don't know if you have any containerized
Yeah,
modules,
definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly recommend just going ahead and playing with the test nets that we already have set up. The Redwood one is basically an exact copy of mainnet, and then the Hambach one is kind of the experimental one, which isn't necessarily a stable version, but typically includes like the new experimental functions, such as what Ryan mentioned. But of course, you're more than welcome to spin up your own test net. You can just go to the docs.regen.network, and there's documentation inside of there. And also on our GitHub, I've modified a couple of scripts to allow you to just, click of a button, download the script, and run it. So there are many ways that you can do it. But again, we already have the test nets up and running. So you might as well just go ahead and start playing with those, which means, you know, you just have to install the binary
Mhm.
and go for it.
God, I see the documentation here. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
essentially it's just adding a node flag so that you can point it to the RPC address of the one of the test networks, and then making sure that you're using the correct regen binary version that the testnet's operating on. And once you have those two things aligned, it just makes it easy to interact with without having to run a local network yourself, or without having to spin up a validator node or anything like that, a full node for the test network.
God, I think that's perfect for playing with the eco credit stuff. But yeah.
Cool.
Exciting. What eco credits are you going to be minting on the testnet, Daniel?
Hold on, there's a call coming. Let me just mute that. I don't know where it's ringing on my. I don't know if you can hear it, but 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of different groups that, you know, there's a community that I've been, or it's a DAO that I've been forming, and we're sort of laying the foundations for that. But there's a lot of different groups that are working across a different, you know, all in the kind of regenerative and climate biodiversity protection space. And so as, you know, a former Regen team member, people often look at me and say, hey, I'm interested in Regen. How do we get started? Or you think, and, you know, is this a good platform to build on? And, you know, people are considering all kinds of different tools, right? And so I end up being sort of a person who sort of, you know, shares a little bit about the eco credit module, that it's coming, that it's in, you know, people want to test on it. There's a group called Local Scale that's really interested in building some integrations. One of the most interesting things that I've been sort of sharing with him and another designer friend of mine is creating like an authoring tool for eco credits, right? So that there's a visual, there's a front end, and maybe you guys have already been thinking about this, but it would be interesting to be able to kind of have a tool, a standalone tool where you could kind of design an eco credit and kind of, and then deploy it, right? So there's like a design phase where you kind of think about the eco credit, and that could span more than Regen Network. There might be a validation layer, there may be other things, but essentially a way that there's a tight coupling or tight integration with Regen, that you could then, deploy an eco credit through, you know, not through a command line interface, but something that's a little more accessible, right? So something along those lines is what I've been discussing with folks. But to get specific, there's a lot of viticulture in this area, and there's in Sonoma County where I live, and there's a few people here who are doing regenerative practices, simple things like soil building, with like, you know, they do composting on site of wood chips. And currently in Sonoma County, all the wood chips get trucked to other counties because they don't do any composting in this county. So there's a lot of, it's just stupid when all that biomass could be applied and could be used for building soil here. So there's some local folks that are already doing things like that, and that would be an interesting eco credit. And there's some folks who don't believe in offsetting or insetting, these kinds of things, and think that it's all bullshit, right? And, you know, as I talk to people like that, and it gets very real when you're managing a vineyard, you know, how could you create something local, right? That's not something in the developing world, right? How could you create a local eco credit that's regional for a wine producing region of the world that has maybe a bad rap, that, you know, a lot of vineyards have a bad rap in terms of like monoculture and that sort of thing. So that's an interesting kind of local effort, just a little bit of local color from this area.
Yeah, just to comment on that, Daniel, I mean, we do have the Fiber Shed project, which is also in Sonoma and Napa. And originally the thought was to develop a soil carbon credit, but pretty quickly we decided that wasn't really the best fit. And so we're currently in the process of developing a methodology and credit that's a little bit more holistically focused on rewarding kind of just the regenerative practice and collecting data that will help advance the science and understanding about how these ecosystems are being rebuilt. So that's focused on regenerative grazing, but I'd say, you know, loop those people in, and with some minor tweaks, it would probably be pretty applicable to them as well.
Yeah, there's some early conversations that I've been having, and, you know, they're looking for, sure, we can maybe follow up on some additional conversations to get more specific. Yeah. Thanks.
I have a quick question, I guess, geared towards what Sam was saying earlier. When you make the region registry public, where will we be able to take a look on GitLab or?
Yeah, so right now we're creating a Git book, which is kind of just a documentation platform that connects directly to GitHub for version control. So once we publish that, it will be accessible via a Git book. And the GitHub is actually already on in our Regen Ledger homes. I think it's called Regen Registry Program, so you could look there.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, no, that'll be a great source of inspiration for writing methodologies. And one thing I'll just point out, based on what Giselle was presenting, which was interesting, we co-hosted a course on agroforestry, combining agroforestry with grazing methods. And this was just to teach people who were doing these practices out in Brazil. And so we do know we're in touch and we keep track with about, I want to say, half a dozen projects that combine cattle, livestock raising, and agroforestry, and it's interesting stuff, and for a sustainable future. Yeah,
cool.
That's awesome. Great information. Yeah, we will definitely combine what's out there in the research side and published in journals.
I can send you stuff.
Feedback. Yes, with
Cool.
feedback from people doing good things on our
Awesome.
sampling, etc.
It'd be really interesting at some point. It'd be fun to geek out. I don't know where we're going to have the time or where I'm going to have the time, but the original land use classification work we did for Ecuadorian agroforestry, it exists, so there's a toolkit. So, Simon, that may be a useful little bit of work. And it's also would be very interesting to get the polygon, to like do a process with the polygons of the places that you're talking about. And just, I'm just always interested in, can we just have very simple land use classification? What's the accuracy of that? How does that work? Because I still feel like that could be an easy foundation for very simple eco credit issuance. So anyway, that's just, it's like, when are we going to do it? Everybody's so busy, but I think maybe there's an interesting thing there.
I can speak with Breno, who's, who's really keeping track of keeping up with the community to see what he, we can get all the information from the various, cattle agroforesters, and I can get back to you on that.
Yes, please. Great.
Cool. Well, yeah, we're just bumping up past the hour here. So Dan, I'll pass it back to you to conclude. But
cool. Yeah, this has been really good. I mean, as being the community manager, I love seeing all the interaction, and I'm super excited for this next phase and seeing the registry grow. So we won't keep you any longer. Thank you for everyone for showing up, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.